Superman Year 1 sees the world of Krypton's air boil and the land explode as the planet destabilizes. Jor-El and Lara race through the chaos, knowing that the Council wouldn't listen to them, but they still can save their son Kal-El. Lara wraps her young son up in a cape as they run through the crowds of doomed people to Jor-El's lab, where he is put in a rocket. Saying their final goodbyes to their son, they are obliterated in the heat. The ship escapes Krypton as the whole planet explodes. In the void of space, baby Kal-El listens to his mother's voice singing him a lullaby as he falls asleep. Later, the boy awakens and in the black void sees a new planet, Earth, the one his father had told him about. Crashing to Earth, Jor-El's voice tells his son to awaken, as the world needs him and needs his many labors to perform to reach their true destiny. The child pushes open the cockpit and coming face to face with Jonathan Kent and the Earth's yellow sun. Jonathan can't believe what he is seeing as the boy reaches out for him. Jonathan takes him back to his truck as Kal-El knows the man means him no harm. Heading to his farm, Jonathan presents the boy to his wife Martha. Martha sees the boy as a gift from heaven, wondering where exactly he even came from. Jonathan doesn't care, since only where he is headed is what counts. As time goes by, Ma and Pa Kent reveal the boy as their own, naming him Clarke. Clarke explores the world from Pa Kent's shoulders, and the boy knows he can do more than other people, like run impossibly fast, causing Ma and Pa Kent to be run ragged trying to keep up with his energetic playfulness. The seasons change and soon does Clarke, who begins developing other powers, like heat vision, which is activated when he is fed oatmeal that is too hot. Clarke begins to dream of flying with nothing holding him back. His dream wasn't actually a dream though, and he awakens miles from home, wondering exactly how he got here. More nights pass and his super hearing begins emerging, making him hear all the sounds of a quiet night on the farm, only turned up to 11. One day a preteen Clarke is playing catch with Jonathan, who is teaching him how to properly catch the ball in his baseball mitt. The ball bounces under a hay trailer and Clarke goes to fetch it while Pa is impressed with the boy's cannon for an arm. Soon Pa learns that Clarke actually upended the trailer to look for the ball. On the first day of high school, Jonathan drives him to school, where his friends are itching to see him. Pa Kent warns him to watch himself, since if he goes in and starts thinking he is better than everyone else, nothing good will come of that. Clarke knows that he isn't better than anyone, just better at doing things than most people are. School begins and Clarke heads to science class, where his teacher asks his class if they know what might be up among the stars. As they all play with the space helmets the teacher gives them, one of Clarke's classmates can't put his head in it because it is too big. The others make fun of Mickey, but Clarke helps him out, slightly ripping the back of the helmet with his strength and giving him enough room. At lunch, everyone is talking about the feats Clarke has done, from helping Mickey out in class to chasing off some bullies. One person who isn't buying any of all the talk about Clarke is Lana'S, who thinks he's just some normal kid. Clarke hangs out with his friends, who all are seen as weirdos in the school. Clarke tells them how to deal with bullies and how to turn the other cheek, and one of his friends know that nothing busts Clarke up, stabbing him in the hand with a pen, which does nothing to Clarke's hand. His friends can't believe he was stabbed by Jeremy, but he waves it away as a trick of the light, since he would have been injured if he had been stabbed. The next day, Clarke learns his friends aren't being bullied thanks to Clarke tying up a naked bully in the girls' shower room. Clarke says he had nothing to do with that, as some of the bullies walk by, calling them out that they're going to get what's coming to them. Clarke knows that this has gone on for way too long and won't take it anymore. Later on, he finds the bullies are back at it again, this time picking on Pete Ross again by filling up his locker with antiseptic liquid, ruining his schoolwork. Clarke knows which bully did this, as Pete says that he can't take the bullying anymore. Clarke wants to go to the principal, but Pete doesn't want to snitch since it'll make things worse. The bully's laughter angers Clarke since it's so heartless and thoughtless. Going home, Clarke asks his parents what he should do, whether he should talk with them or fight them. Martha doesn't want any talk about violence at the dinner table, but Jonathan says that he should talk with them, then if that doesn't work, he should flatten them. Martha tells him that they should stop talking, but Clarke wants to stop his friends from being so scared, but Jonathan tells him to listen to his mother, who won't have him getting himself hurt or hurt somebody else. The next morning, Clarke's friends walk to school, and the bullies return, this time egging them, causing them to go home and change their clothes. Later at school, Clarke is told what happened and how everyone, including the teachers and parents, are scared of the bullies. Clarke knows it's time for a talk, so he confronts the bullies, telling them that his friends have never hurt anybody or even hurt them, and they better lay off. The bullies wonder if he's picking a fight, and Clarke Clarke does absolutely nothing, merely putting his arm out as one of the bullies tries to rush him, causing him to fall back. Clarke knows to show restraint, trying not to lose his temper as he blocks one of the bully's punches, causing him to break his hand. The bullies run off, and soon Clarke's parents are called into the principal's office to meet with the principal and the bully's parents. Martha is upset at her son and what he did, but he defends himself by saying that the kid was bullying his friends and all he did was block one of his punches. The principal gives the bully 10-day suspension, while Clarke, a new student and first up in the principal's office, gets 10 days of cleaning the boys' bathroom with Otis. At home, Clarke wonders what he should have done to the bad guys, with Martha saying that not everyone is really bad, some people are just confused. Later, Jonathan comes to see Clarke in his room, saying nobody's always right about everything and he needs to take the high road. Doing that may see him being taken advantage of, but he knows his son isn't anyone's doormat. Jonathan knows that his son isn't something the world has seen before and he's going to change it for the better. Clarke ponders his father's words while sitting on top of a grain silo, knowing his father is getting a little too cosmic for his liking. Clarke returns to school as a hero, with all of the kids knowing what he did to the bullies, but they still continue to pick on the others, this time actually beating one of his friends up. Clarke feels somewhat disheartened, knowing that what he did didn't have any effect on the bullies, and he's only made things worse. The bullies have in fact gotten bolder, this time continuing the beatings of Clarke's friends, but never actually coming for him, alienating Clarke from them, as none of them want to be around him now. As he sits on the bus alone, Lana meets with him, saying that she and Clarke will stop Markham and his gang for good since she has loads of pictures she wants to take to the cops of what the gang have been up to, which will lead to them being arrested. Lana tells Clarke to meet her at her place that night as Jeremy listens in. That night, Clarke rushes through dinner, making up excuses about meeting Lana. Lana meanwhile meets with who she thinks is Clarke, but it is actually Markham and his gang, who were alerted to what Lana are up to thanks to Jeremy. The gang assault her and demand her camera and pictures, but before they can seriously injure her, the gang disappears, suddenly thrown around the yard by an unseen force. The entire gang are taken down by the hooded Clarke, who grabs Lana and waves off his fighting as something par toward him. Clarke actually flies with Lana, who has no idea how it is happening or what Clarke is doing. Clarke tells Lana about his powers, as she says that they have everything they need to take down Markham and his gang. Clarke says that they had to dig up the truth if they want to get justice, just like a reporter. Clarke wants to pick Lana up from school in the morning, and she suggests that they take the bus, since flying into school might raise a few questions. Leaving the house, Clarke flies off, telling Lana she will learn his secrets once he's allowed to court her a little first. As they reach finals week, Clarke and Lana study, with Clarke speed reading through most of the entire library during their study session. Clarke and Lana's relationship grows and the two of them share summer together, having family barbecues and going to the movies. Clarke knows that he is indeed in love with Lana, and going to his secret spot, his fortress of Solitude, he stops hiding, flying around the fields, surfing the wind and teaching himself some fancy flying moves he hopes to show Lana sometime. Later, Clarke plays football with the Smallville Wolves, not holding back as the other team try and take him down, but not even 4 other players can slow him. Everyone goes crazy, but his parents aren't impressed with his showboating. Clarke single-handedly wins the match for his school. He's hailed as a champion as Lana kisses him and the team lead him off to celebrate. Days later, Clarke helps his father tend to the fields and the cattle. Jonathan wonders what his son is going to find himself doing now that he's finished school, and Clarke says that he's going to go out and get to know his planet. He says he's beginning with the ocean since that's where most life is, and that there is more water on Earth than land. Pa knows that he's given this a bit of thought, it seems, and Clarke says that he has, and it's time for him to go soon, and he has enlisted himself in the Navy. Jonathan thought that he would go off to college since they've actually been saving for that, but Clarke wants them to use that money for themselves, and he will, once he's set up, send them money as well. Clarke tells him that the seas call for him and the whole planet is, and he's just got to see it all and learn why he's got these amazing powers. Jonathan knows that this is so he can figure out what to do with those powers and not just show off with them. The two men head to the house, wondering how Martha will take the news, and Jonathan has no idea on how to predict his wife, even though he's been married to her his whole life. The men go inside, telling Martha about Clarke's plans to leave home, and even though he keeps telling her it will be fine, she knows it won't, since Clarke Kent is leaving home. Early the next day, Ma and Pa wonder where Clarke could be as he is headed off to see Lana one final time. Clarke kisses Lana, telling her that he won't be gone on forever and he will never forget her. He returns home to find the bus waiting for him, and the CO in charge is annoyed Clarke is running late, but he arrives, saying goodbye to his mother and father, telling them that he will do his best every step of the way. Before he leaves, Martha gives him a red cape of sorts, saying they found it on him when they found him in the field, and since it's quite tough, it might help him where he's going. Boarding the bus, it pulls away, and Clarke settles in, reading a book about old battles as others around him talk to their sweethearts or their mothers. He begins to think of Lana, thinking he can hear her voice, and looking out the window, his telescopic vision activates, and he can see all the way to Lana's house, where she is standing on the roof with a note that reads that she loves Clarke. The bus continues and Clarke soon falls asleep, thinking of Krypton's destruction. He's jolted awake by his CO as they pull into the Naval Academy at the Great Lakes. He takes in everything around him, watching jets come in hard and fast to the base. Knowing Krypton and even Smallville are behind him now, Clarke knows a new day is dawning and new challenges await him, and he is ready for them. Soon begins Clarke's time at the Naval Academy in Great Lakes, Illinois. Clarke remembers his father's words, not to show off, and during training he notes how fragile humans are. Clarke excels at every aspect of the training, including marksmanship, catching the eye of his commanding officer Kurtzberg, who wants him to see Commander Cruz. Visiting the commander, he wonders if Clarke is ready for the next level, SEAL team training, but doesn't think the boy is up for it. A week later, Clarke arrives at Coronado, the naval base in the Californian coast. Again, he excels at the training and soon becomes enamored by the sea and how it calls to him. He soon becomes distracted by what are apparently mermaids, causing him to get into trouble with his CO, forced to do push-ups in the surf before cleaning the garbage cans. Late that night, Clarke watches the ocean and the mermaids as Kurtzberg arrives, saying that they are worth watching and the world has many wonders, just like those mermaids, and there's more things that even a Kansas farm boy could ever dream of. The officer warns that many men have been watching the mermaids and some have even gone crazy, jumping in after them and being lost to the sea. Kurtzberg soon leaves, hoping Clarke will keep their conversation to themselves. Knowing becoming a SEAL means he won't get shore leave or feel the ground under his feet again, he takes some shore leave, meeting a woman named Shari, a reporter of sorts. Clarke and Shari's night, however, is interrupted by a drunkard who tries to hit on Shari. Clarke politely tells the man to leave, accidentally making him drop his beer. The man punches Clarke, but he merely blocks the blow, causing the drunk man to break his wrist and fall into a group of guys celebrating a birthday. A fight breaks out, and later, Clarke is chewed out by his CO, since he technically started it, meaning he is forced to clean the bathrooms and bins with his own toothbrush. In the late hours of the night, Clarke leaves the barracks, continuing to hear the mermaids singing. He heads to the beach, diving deep under the water and through the reefs, breathing in the water. Soon he comes upon a mermaid in the deep silence. The mermaid is named Lori, and she teases him to follow her. Clarke gives chase, and soon he comes across the mermaid's massive city, Atlantis, which has been rammed into by a submarine. Clarke immediately gets to work helping the people along with Lori, who has already been helping for hours. With a few hours left until he needs to be back on dry land, Clarke helps stabilize the crashed submarine, ripping through the destroyed buildings and freeing the trapped people inside, and replanting the sea trees along the banks. Soon he needs to leave, but Lori and Yellows want him to stay, and Lori wanted Clarke to be with her, but Clarke knows he must go since he has a job to do. However, he promises he will be back. Lori is glad since together they will unite the 7 tribes of the 7 seas and she will be his queen. Clarke emerges from the water, heading stealthily back to the barracks as his CO watches from the shadows, knowing something is different about Clarke, and he has been with the mermaids and now knows about them. That morning, Clarke engages in CQC training, finishing up his fight quick so his partner doesn't get hurt. CO asks Clarke that since he's in a position of advantage in the fight, he can beat the man to death, but Clarke would rather ask the sailor how his mother is. Next they spar with pugil sticks, and Clarke almost wants to lose, but he wants to be a SEAL and wants action and danger, so he smacks the sailor in the face with the stick as the CO tells him to go in for the kill. Clarke begins to feel strange about all the talk of killing, thanks to Kurtzberg's words. Knife training soon starts, and Clarke demolishes the sailor with precise hits, and again Kurtzberg commands commands him to go for the kill, but then Clarke realizes that feeling he has is from his want to not kill. That night, Clarke can't sleep thanks to all of the talk of killing as Kurtzberg arrives, telling him and the others to get to the briefing room. Kurtzberg tells them of an oil tanker sending out a mayday call from off the coast, and it has been taken over by pirates, so they are going to engage and take back the boat. Suiting up and heading out, Clarke and the other SEALs reach the boat, finding the crew have all been murdered. Splitting into two teams, one heads for the control room, the other cleans the pirates out of the rest of the boat. Clarke's team heads to the control room, with the team killing many of the pirates as Clarke shoots out the lights. Clarke knows exactly how many are in the room thanks to his X-ray vision. The team storm the room, killing the pirates, but Clarke, not wanting to kill, only knocks the pirates out with his gun, before the final one activates a grenade. Kurtzberg tells Clarke to take the shot, but instead he grabs the man's hands, hoping to get the grenade away from him in order to save him. Clarke manages to shut the grenade away in his hands tight as it goes off. The man is saved and Clarke waves it off as a faulty charge in the grenade. Kurtzberg radios in that their mission was a success, hoping one day Clarke will come clean with him about why he is so strange. What Clarke did, however, was wrong, risking his teammates, and despite his clean record and exceptional skills, the Navy is forced to discharge him with honors. Kurtzberg tries to defend him, but it's no use, so he tells Clarke to go home. 2 weeks later, after his stint is up, Clarke packs his stuff, knowing he learned what he needed to learn and he's explored and adventured. He does know he needs to go and see Laurie one last time as his fellow sailors bid him goodbye. Leaving the barracks, he meets with Kurtzberg, who wants to talk with him. Kurtzberg wants to know how Clarke survived the hand grenade blast, and he knows the boy has gifts. He tells Clarke not to go around the world setting fires, since the world is already in fire and it's his job to put them out. Clarke promises him he will, shaking his commander's hand before heading to the beach, wading into the ocean as Kurtzberg watches, hoping the boy gives his regards to the mermaids. Clarke dives deep into the water as he hears the mermaids and how they call to him. Soon Laurie Lana'S comes to find Clarke at their secret meeting place, staying with Clarke. After their time together, Clarke emerges wearing the costume his mother made him, in hopes it will make a good impression when he meets Laurie's father, Poseidon. Clarke approaches the city, confronting the giant statue guarding the entrance. Suddenly he feels something moving, and the statue comes alive, smashing him with its mace. Clarke easily stops the mace as the heat vision builds behind his eyeballs, unleashing it on the weapon and blowing it apart. The guard stands down, allowing Clarke access to the city. Going through the doorway, he heads into the court of Poseidon. As he bows, the king isn't impressed with Clarke at all, thinking he is something to be stepped on. He orders Clarke to be put to the test and see if he can measure up, and leaving, Clarke thinks the king sees him as a usurper and that the boy is only after his throne. And despite how fun that would actually be for Clarke, he knows he never wants to be in charge of anyone or someone else. He just wants a chance with Laurie. Suddenly he feels vibrations as some mermen dump a rock shelf on him. It does little to hold him, and breaking out of the rock he is confronted by electric eels that come for him. Their electricity is harmless to him, so the mermen attack him with their powerful spears, but again the weapons merely tickle Clarke. Later the mermen return to Poseidon, who learns they failed in their task. He learns Clarke uttered one word, Laurie. This angers the king, who says the boy will not have his throne or access to his daughter ever. Slamming his fist down, Poseidon summons one of the Kraken, which bursts from the ground under Clarke and grabs him. Clarke knows the thing thinks he is a toy and tries to squish him against the rock, but it can't. Instead, it swallows him whole as the creature begins to feel sick, returning to Poseidon. Laurie is upset with Clarke's death, but her father says that she will have no man beside him in her life, and she will rule by his side by taking her mother's place, in more ways than one. Laurie calls him a monster as the Kraken begins billowing steam from its maw. Suddenly, it throws Clarke up. Laurie tells her father Clarke has more than proved himself to him, but the Mad King refuses to recognize Clarke as nothing more than the frog he is. He commands the other larger Kraken to attack, slamming its tentacle down on top of Clarke, despite his daughter's plea. Clarke, however, is barely touched by the giant monster, and Laurie watches as her Superman laughs off the attack, surviving it and meeting with Laurie as the people of Atlantis watch their new king and queen. Poseidon knows he is bested, telling the Krakens to leave and only come when they are called. He too soon takes his leave from Atlantis as the city's people celebrate the end of the dark times. Clarke hears their cheers for him and knows that he could stay here forever and never leave. Later, a submarine succumbed to an exploding volcanic gas underwater, causing the woman aboard to call for a mayday. Water rushes in as Atlantis' defenses come online, ready to destroy the submarine. However, Superman arrives, pushing the sub back towards the surface as the missiles are fired. With no time, Clarke rips the window off the sub and grabs the window, racing away as the missiles exploded. Putting the woman on the beach, Clarke delivers her mouth-to-mouth, but it isn't getting a response. Clarke doesn't give up as the woman jolts awake. She thanks him, saying her name is Lois, and Superman picks her up and leaves her up in a tree, saying that he will be right back. Going back down onto the beach, he calls out the SEAL team hiding in the bush that he heard earlier, telling them that they should just get on with it. The soldiers surround him, but Superman easily disarms and stops them. More come and try and taser and gas him, but nothing seems to work. Another boat full of soldiers arrive, telling him to get on the ground. Their leader says that he's violating a maximum security area, and so is the woman he saved. But Superman says that Lois is under his protection, but the soldiers say that he has no idea whose feet he is stepping on being there. Superman says that there is life in Atlantis, and it is sacred, and it's getting attacked for no good reason, and he won't stand by and let that happen. The soldiers fire an electrified clamp around Superman, but he easily breaks out of it, sending shrapnel everywhere that wounds and incapacitates the soldiers. Taking out more with a mini sandstorm, Clarke returns to Lois, finding that she's gone into shock thanks to the cold. Looking for her ID, Clarke learns that Lois Lane is a reporter, so he wraps her up in his cape and flies off with her, promising he will get her somewhere safe and he will always keep her safe. A year later, Clarke, fresh from university where he majored in journalism, rides a train to Metropolis, where one of his teachers has gotten him a job at the Daily Planet. Heading through the big city, Clarke wonders that maybe the Clark Kent side of him can be a mask in this city. Suddenly, a child runs out onto the road in front of a truck, causing Clarke to race out and save her. People see him, but in the confusion, he disappears into the crowd, hearing the woman thank him for saving her child. Leaving his things at his apartment, Clarke heads to the Daily Planet, where while waiting for Perry White, he learns that crime is rampant in Metropolis. The hurricane known as Perry White arrives, telling Clarke that if he wants the job, the only one that can make it happen is him, and he needs to show Perry what he's got. As he leaves, Clarke sees Lois in the bullpen, but knows that she will recognize him as Superman, so he needs a disguise while he is Clark Kent. Stopping off at a hat shop, he begins to sort out his secret identity, consisting of glasses and an old-fashioned hat that changed the shape of his head, which will help make him look so unlike Superman. Later, Superman takes to the rooftops, listening for crime out in Metropolis and filtering through them by priority. He soon stops a group of bank robbers, trapping them in an alleyway with their cars, before taking down a group of drug dealers, leaving them wrapped up in duct tape for the cops. Nearby, a woman is being beaten by her husband, so Superman steps in, telling the cowardly man that this is the woman's home as much as it is his, and it looks like her and her kids could use some quiet, so he hangs the man outside the window with some duct tape as the police arrive. Down at the 9th precinct before dawn, the police find that 3 separate criminals have been dropped at their doorsteps, again covered in duct tape. Superman continues to take down crime all over Metropolis, which begins talking about the flying man, capturing a picture of him that makes the news and the papers. At the Daily Planet, Lois is on the case of the mysterious flying man as Perry White says that there is a hostage crisis at Lex Luthor's palace. Perry gives Jimmy the job of getting the copies to Mrs. Winters, and as he delivers the copies to her, she tells him to grab his camera since he's going with her and Lois. As they head out, Lois wonders where Clarke has gotten to as he ducks into a back room, changing into his costume and taking off into the rainy night sky. Lois and the others board the Daily Planet helicopter and head to LexCorp, despite not having clearance for the area. Suddenly, Superman shoots out in front of them, causing the chopper to shake in the shockwave. Clarke finds a perch high above the tower, quickly putting the thought of how humans look small out of his mind, since they are his people, and they are in danger thanks to the 5 men holding a group hostage in the LexCorp tower. Spot get ready to go in as the men begin getting scared, taking a little girl hostage and telling the FBI chopper watching them that they want $1 billion in diamonds and a transport or the kid dies. Suddenly Superman arrives, grabbing the girl and one of the thugs, who says that they will all burn. Superman puts him on a weather vane before stopping with the child, wrapping her up in his cape and learning that she has a phone on her, which he uses to tell the police where she is so they can come and pick her up. up. Superman races back to LexCorp, ripping the building open as the men open fire on him. He traps the men under the steel roof as the hostages soon escape, and Lois rappels down from the helicopter on an adjacent roof, taking photos of Superman sealing the men inside the steel. At the other end of the building, Lex Luthor arrives, knowing everything is going according to plan and everything is in order. He confronts Superman, finding him very impressive, but all his power is put to such waste. Superman says that he isn't one of Luthor's lackeys, and Lex invites him inside as Lois continues getting photos. Getting out of the rain, Lex says that they both despise agents of chaos and terror, like the one in Gotham at the moment, Batman. And Superman has heard of him, and Gotham is a rough place, and Lex shows Superman some photos of what Batman has done to criminals, as Clarke knows not to trust him. In Gotham Harbor, a cargo ship pulls away from dock as one of their extra passengers, Batman, binds all of the pirates on the boat and guides them down to a lifeboat, sending them to shore. Diving below the water, Batman collects the jet vehicle Alfred had left for him, allowing him to escape as the cargo ship explodes. The next day in Metropolis, word of a cargo ship full of weapons hits the news as Lex Luthor welcomes Superman on stage, letting him meet the police and take some questions. The first from Lois, who wonders if it's true that Superman will be becoming a licensed agent of the state. Lex, however, answers it, saying that Superman only answers to the common purpose and to civic order. Superman tries to get a word in, but Lex continues talking, saying that he's going to reign in chaos like Batman. Hours before, in Gotham City, Lex meets with the Joker, saying that they need something to distract their respective muscle-bound enemies. Joker thinks a new drug is in order, one that will keep the heroes busy for a time and make them zillions. Lex agrees, and he will contact Joker later after his farmer people have gotten onto it. As Joker sits in the subway cart, someone grabs him, saying that he's got questions for the Joker, but they will soften the clown up first. Later, one of Luthor's discreet drug labs is blown up by Batman. Hector Ramirez delivers the news to Lex, letting him know that the building was blown to pieces and there's pictures of Lex Luthor all around the crime scene. Luthor breaks Hector's nose as he thinks of a way he can pit Superman against Batman. He suddenly realizes that he should keep it simple, so Lex's lawyers get to work, suing the Daily Planet for siding with terrorism. Clarke overhears the lawyers meeting with Perry, who says that if Luthor wants work done, he should order Batman to be brought in. Clarke knows that Lex is scared as Lois wants Jimmy to grab Clarke so they can cover the story, but Clarke is gone, however, racing to Gotham City as the bat signal lights the sky. Superman goes to the signal, meeting with Batman and sizing him up as Bruce sizes him up. Batman activates his traps, firing his guns at the captured Man of Steel, but nothing hurts him. Batman says that he is going to hurt Superman, and he tells him to bring it on with everything he's got. Batman says that he's tested everything about Superman and he will put him down as he fires a taser weapon at him, punching the hero, but nothing seems to work. Tired of the Dark Knight's games, Superman grabs him, saying that with one punch he can splatter him all over the roof like jello. He suddenly stopped when Wonder Woman arrives, telling them that they need to stop their squabbles, since from this moment on, each of them serves one idea: justice. The Trinity head to LexCorp, with Diana and Clarke meeting with Lex as Batman takes out his guards. Diana wraps him in the lasso of truth and he spills all his secrets, telling the Amazon that the lasso is a wonderful tool and she could make trillions off its applications. Lex also details something happening far off world, where an android named Brainiac is enslaving people, along with the lost tribe of Krypton, Kandor. Batman doesn't trust Lex, but Superman knows he's telling the truth, so Superman heads for the window, saying his people need him. Wonder Woman wants to go with him, but Clarke can't risk her, so Diana instead just wants a kiss to remember the Superman, so Superman kisses her on the forehead. Taking off as Batman tells Luthor he is going to go to prison and he will be really popular with the other prisoners. Superman takes to the sky, leaving Metropolis behind and breaking through the atmosphere and into the stars, knowing that Kandor needs his help and the genocidal Brainiac awaits him, but without pause he speeds into the unknown towards the never-ending battle. Superman Year 1 was a pretty good origin of the Dark Knight Returns Superman and dived into a more updated version of that world. I was actually surprised at how good Frank Miller, of all people, wrote this Superman, exploring how his upbringing and world travels formed his opinion on the human race and why he loves and protects them. It's not without its problems, however, as the final issue felt ridiculously rushed and would have benefited benefited from being split into 2 issues, so we could explore Clarke's reasoning for becoming a journalist and his first days in Metropolis. Batman and Wonder Woman were definitely not needed in this issue and were just kind of chucked in there just because Frank Miller's written them before, and it's sort of, look, here's the Trinity. The cliffhanger tease at the end has me actually wanting a follow-up, since it would be interesting to explore Superman going out into the galaxy and exploring it and seeing if he belongs out there in the galaxy or on Earth. I'm going to give Superman Year 1 a 7.5 out of 10.